Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I want to actually talk to you about something that's a little bit more controversial, I guess, because it's also quite difficult as it depends on so many different factors. But I'll try to share some universal advice that I think can be relevant for you. And what I'm talking about is money in relationship. Now on this channel, I always talk about money, investing, etc. And it's super easy to talk to your friends or like-minded people on YouTube and other forums online. But with your partner in a relationship, I really found and heard from friends that money ends up being one of the biggest issues in their relationship. So I think it's super important that we address that, because obviously in order to be happy in your life, you want to have a good functioning relationship. And for that, it's super important to be clear about money. So let's talk about it. And that exactly is my first point, to communicate about money in the relationship. Because yes, it's so easy to not talk about it, right? Yet we talk about all the things we value in our lives, etc. But often money isn't one of them. And I think that's the biggest source of conflict and confusion in a relationship. So I think it's super important to be open about it. Now, obviously, you're not going to do this on the first date or when you just moved in, but eventually, if you see your partner being the one for the future, then I think it's really the best to sit down and have that talk. It doesn't have to be the talk, it can be organically over time. I think it's important to really talk about it, to also find out if you have the same values, and I come to this in a second, but I think it's super important to be aligned. It's the same thing about kids. If one partner wants to have kids and the other one doesn't want to have any kids, over time it will definitely lead to some kind of conflict. So I think it's super important to really talk about it and be open from the beginning. Because what's the point of being with somebody for a couple of years and only later on realizing that actually you're not financially compatible, while everything else works out, that part doesn't, and it would be such a shame to break up just because of money. Yet most divorces actually end up being money related, right? One way or the other. And they can get really ugly, obviously with regards to the kids, but more commonly about the money, and that's just such a bad thing. Now obviously we also need to factor in cultural differences as well, because you might be from Europe and your partner might be from Asia, Africa, America, what have you, and different cultures do have different values and thoughts about money. You know, in some cultures it's very common that the man pays for everything, he provides for everything, and the woman just looks beautiful and provides the babies in the future, right? So if that's the case, then once again be very upfront about it so that you don't feel frustrated at the end of the day if you end up spending for everything. On the other hand, some Western countries these days, you know, women are being so progressive that if you invite them and treat them, they actually get quite upset about it. In Germany these days, it's actually considered quite rude if you invite the woman for the first date, etc. So, you know, for me, I think it's quite weird. I think a man should treat a woman once in a while, but again, you need to be culturally sensitive and have the conversation to understand what's going on in the partner's mind, because you can't read the partner's mind. And if they expect you to invite them and you don't do it, you know, once again, there will just be something simmering in them and it just doesn't lead to a happy relationship. So really important, be open, be transparent. So the next thing is talking about money. Do you know how much your partner actually earns? Most people don't. So let's talk about it. Like, once again, we know so many things about our partners, their childhood, their ex-partners, their family, etc. Yet many people, guess what, don't know how much their partner earns. Now I understand it can be a little bit uncomfortable in the beginning, but once again, if you plan to be with your partner for the rest of your life, I genuinely think it's important to know that, because it just helps you to gauge the situation and understand where your partner is. Because a lot of people, what I see, they make assumptions about their partner. The man or woman in a relationship might have a fancy job title and given a car by the company, and then the partner automatically assumes that they're making a lot of money, and they feel very comfortable and they don't really bother about talking about it because they know they will be taken care of. Yet at the same time, actually what can happen is that all these job titles and cars are just perks, but the actual income and their spending is significantly higher. So what they'll be able to save and invest and grow for the long term is significantly less than the partner might expect. Or of course it can also be the opposite. Your partner might be earning a lot but living a humble life, so you think, well, they're actually not earning that much. Both of you will live a little bit more humbly, while at the same time the partner might actually invest and put money aside that you never heard about. So one day a rainy day comes, they split up, and he lives with all the money that you never heard about it. And I think that's also not fair, and you should be knowing how much your partner is earning, at least a ballpark figure. You don't have to give a daily update or monthly update. You know, obviously if you have your own business, it might fluctuate. At least have a range of income that you can expect your partner to make, because once again, it just takes out the guesswork out of this relationship. So I generally think this can be one of the biggest positive things you can do in your relationship. Talk about money. And that's also great as you grow together along the way, how potentially you can grow your income and celebrate the successes. Rather, if you just know it yourself, imagine at work you got a 30% increase or a big promotion, a bonus, and you can't talk to your partner about it. I really think it's such a shame to keep this for yourself. I think it's a beauty to talk about it, celebrate money. It's just one part of our life, but it's obviously an important part. So why hide it under the carpet? There's no reason to it. The same what I'm trying to do with this channel, to transparently show my investment wins and also fails, and just learn from it. We're all going to disappear from this world one Sundays. So why do we feel bad about making a lot of money or very little money? I mean, I was a student at some stage, right? Making hardly any money, eating ramen noodles almost every day. So there's no shame in that. But obviously, progress brings happiness for me. So if you don't talk about it, you can't really share and celebrate the progress. So definitely talk about money. Next up, I think it's super important to have shared and common values when it comes to the topic of money. That's why obviously I said about talking about money, so you understand each other's values. Because one big problem that I see a lot of couples going through, that one partner likes to spend a lot of money on materialistic things, etc. Another partner might be rather frugal. In my case, for example, I don't really like to spend money on fancy designer clothes, right? I love traveling and hotels. I can really spend a lot of money on that. I really value experiences. Buying an expensive leather good just because there's a big brand on it, for me, gives me absolutely zero pleasure. But at the same time, I know my partner really appreciates those things. So if she uses her money to buy it for herself, I don't want to judge her for it because I know it brings her pleasure. And knowing that, obviously once in a while, I try to make an effort to treat her for something like that as well. But we've spoken about it and she knows how I feel about it. And therefore she obviously wouldn't be buying me anything super fancy. Rather, she would maybe invite me for a trip or an experience because that's something I value, not fancy designer clothes. But if we wouldn't have talked about it, we wouldn't know these things, right? So I think it's super important to have some kind of alignment. Now, obviously, you don't need to see things eye to eye. Like in a relationship, I think it's nice that people and partners bring differences to the relationship. But overall, if one likes to spend a lot and likes to live a luxurious, lavish life, and the other one is happy to go camping every weekend and eat ramen noodles, then obviously there's going to be a mismatch, which will once again lead to conflict down the road. So be very transparent from the beginning what things you value and the things you do enjoy spending money on and where you think you should be saving. The same is true when it comes to who is paying for what, because many times you see people in the restaurant where the lady's paying the bill, and even myself, I'm thinking, wow, why does the lady paying the bill? I'm more conservative. I think the man should be paying the bill, or at least some kind of arrangement there. But once again, maybe there was an arrangement that you've done based on your cultural heritage, your values, that you treat each other. Sometimes you pay, sometimes she pays. And once again, there's no right or wrong. It has to work for you. Don't let anyone judge you for your values and your agreement. Yes, I might think it's weird, but at the same time, when I was a student, I definitely didn't treat my lady all the time because I just didn't have the money. Obviously, later on, as you progress through your career, you're going to have money to spend and you'll have high ability to treat your partner. So it really depends on your life circumstances. Now, personally, I wouldn't be a fan of having an Excel sheet that I share with my partner where I list every single expense that we ever had during the day, weeks, months. But once again, for some people that works and you shouldn't be judged by anyone else. If it works for you, great. And that actually brings me to another very common point, and that's having a joint account. Now, for a lot of couples, that really works, where basically every month, the beginning of the month, end of the month, as soon as you get a salary, you basically send an equal amount of money or different amount of money, again, depending on your life circumstances, into a joint account that both of you have a card for and can spend. Once again, you should have some agreements that it's only used for groceries, or maybe whenever you go to a restaurant, both of you can use the card without having to ask for approval from the other person, because I think that would be really sad, having to text your partner asking if it's okay to use the money to go out to a restaurant with friends, right? If you have clear rules in place where the money can be used for, then that's amazing and it makes things a little bit easier. And that's what I said, maybe the lady paying in the restaurant is actually using the money from a joint account, and then that's totally fine. So as long as you have clear rules about it, you spoke about it, everybody's in agreement, I really think such a solution can make perfect sense. At the same time though, I really think it's also important to have your own financial independence, because if you share everything together, then naturally whatever you spend your money on, your partner will see. And who knows, maybe you want to surprise your partner with a little gift. If you spend the money right away, your partner will see what you're spending the money on, right? And if you come home after a night out with friends and you have to explain to your partner why you spend a certain amount on drinks in a bar, you know, once again that leads to conflict. So while I think a joint account can work, even though personally we don't have a joint account with my partner, but once again it can work for you, I really think if you still have a joint account, keep your own money to yourself, because you want to have a bit of money where you just have independence, because you're spending your life together with the partner. At the same time, you do want to have a little bit of independence, what you can use your money on without having to explain yourself. I think that's super important, because otherwise you're basically being choked and monitored, and it's almost like Big Brother watching you. You work hard for your money, so you should be in a position where you can also spend it freely. And anyways, if you spoke about money and have some financial goals, your partner will know, if you're overspending every single month, because that's also something I see happening. If people have too much of their financial independence, they spend recklessly, overspend, and at the end of the month, there's too little money left. They can't invest and they can't grow the overall net worth of the family or the relationship. So I think it's super important to, once again, be transparent and openly talk about it, have some kind of rules about how you divide your money, but at the same time, have a little bit of financial independence for yourself, that you can treat yourself and spend the money on the things that you value and bring pleasure to your life. And the next point has to do with having clear financial goals. And once again, it goes back to talking about your finances, because you want to know how much money you want to have one day, right? How much money you want to earn, your dream salary, your dream income, how much money you want to save, how much money you're going to allocate for holidays, for trips, and major milestones, how much money you're planning to invest, because that's also a big thing in relationships where people would rather use the money to travel and go somewhere and not invest. So if your partner doesn't understand the value of investing, that you do it with the purpose of growing net worth over time to have more money in the future, then it's going to lead to challenges once again. So I think it's super important to be very clear and set goals of how much money every month you're going to be investing into stocks, or maybe you're planning to take a mortgage and buy real estate. So talk about it, be very transparent and open about it. Imagine you're investing 40% of your income every month to invest into stocks or ETFs. While that's great, if at the same time you're being very stingy, never treat your partner, never go anywhere, going out, etc., enjoying life, your partner might get really fed up with this and ask you to invest less and spend more money on them or experiences. And it's totally understandable. So that's why it's very important to take your partner along to the journey and explain them why you do that in the first place, and celebrate milestones and wins when you grow, for example, the dividend income you'll be getting as a family in the future, or the overall net worth of your portfolio. I think that's important to celebrate, and then your partner can also understand why you're doing it. So there you have it. As I said at the beginning of the video, I really think there is no right or wrong. It has to work for you. But that goes back to understanding and talking about money. Be very open and transparent with your partner, because we cannot read each other's minds. So if you don't talk about it, eventually, problems will occur. So I think it's super, super important to be transparent. How in the end you agree, once again, there is really no right or wrong. There's so many cultural differences, personal differences, life differences, depending on what stage of your career you're in, how much money you make. So really, it has to work for you essentially, but that can only start working if you talk about it, address the pain points, and come to agreement together. So I hope you got some value out of this video. If you did, please give a like, subscribe to the channel, means the world to me. Next up, check out this video over here. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Stay healthy, get wealthy, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.